My screen being shared or not? Do you see my screen now?
Yeah, we can see now.
Yes, Bhogaji.
Okay. Okay, so we'll start with Prarthana Shloka and then Prajna will start chanting all the shlokas from the Prathama Sarga. Om Vinayaka Namastubhyam Satatam Modaka Priya Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tattulям Ramanama Varanane Apadamapahartaram Dataram Sarvasampadam Lokabhiramam Shri Ramam Bhuyo Bhuyo Namamyaham Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedhase Raghunataya Nathaya Sitayah Pataye Namaha Shriraghavam Dasharathatmajamaprameయం Sitapatim Raghukulan Vayaratnadipam Ajanubahumaravindadalayatakszam Ramam Nishachara Vinashakaram Namami Anjaneyamatipaṭalananam Kanchanadrikamaniya Vigraham Parijata Tarumulavasinam Bhavayami Pavamananandanam Yatra Yatra Raghunatha Kirtanam Tatra Tatra Kratamastakāñjalim Bāshpavari Paripurnalochanam Marutim Namatarakshasantakam Kujantam Rama Rameti Madhuram Madhuraksharam Aruhya Kavita Shakam Vande Valmiki Kokilam. Sarvebhyah Swagatam. Prajna Shlokanuchatam.
तपस्वी वाग्विदाम्बरं नारदं परिपप्रच्छ वाल्मीकिर्मुनिपुङ्गवम् कौन्वस्मिन् साम्प्रतं लोके गुणवान् कश्च वीर्यवान् धर्मज्ञश्च कृतज्ञश्च सत्यवाक्यो दृढव्रतः आत्मवान् को सर्वभूतेषु को हितः विद्वाङ्गः समर्थश्चैर्यदर्शनः आत्मवान् को जितक्रोधो दितिमान् को न सूयकः कस्य बिभ्यति देवाश्च जातरोषस्य संयुगे एतदिच्छाम्यहं श्रोतुं पदं कौतूहलं हि मे महर्षि त्वं समर्थोऽसि ज्ञातुमेवं विदं नरम् श्रुत्वा चेतत्त्रिलोकज्ञो वाल्मीकिर्नारदो वचः श्रूयते सामन्त्या प्रकृष्टो वाक्यमब्रवीत् बहवो दुर्लभाश्चैव एत्वया कीर्तिता गुणाः मुने वक्तव्यं बुद्ध्वा तैर्युक्तः श्रूयतां नरः इक्ष्वाकुवंशप्रभवो रामो नाम जनेश्रुतः नियतात्मा महावीर्यो धृतिमान् वशी बुद्धिमान् नीतिमान् वाग्मी श्रीमान् शत्रुनिबर्हणः विपुलांसो महाबाहुः कम्बुग्रीवो महाहनुः महोरस्को महेश्वासो भूतजत्रुररिन्दमः आजबाहुः सुललाटः
Uttam. Anybody else from there to continue? Samasama Vibhaktangaha. Aditya, okay. Same family or somebody else? Let's just see if there is anyone else who wants to read. You are default anyways, otherwise. Aditya ji.
I did not learn Bhogaji. I will try to learn the next week.
Okay. Astu. Deepti ji, continue.
समविभक्ताङ्गः स्निग्धवर्णप्रतापवान्
पीनवक्षा विशालाक्षो लक्ष्मीवान् शुभलक्षणः धर्मज्ञः सत्यसन्धश्च प्रजानां च हिते रतः यशस्वी ज्ञानसम्पन्नः शुचिर्वस्यः समाधिमान् प्रजापतिसमः श्रीमान् धाता रिपुनिषूदनः रक्षिता जीवलोकस्य धर्मस्य परिरक्षिता रक्षिता स्वस्य धर्मस्य स्वजनस्य च रक्षिता वेदाङ्गतत्त्वज्ञो धनुर्वेदे च निष्ठितः सर्वशास्त्रार्थ तत्त्वज्ञः स्मृतिमान् प्रतिभानवान् सर्वलोकप्रियः साधुः अधीनात्मा विचक्षणः. That's it.
उत्तमम्. सर्वदाभिगतः सद्भिः समुद्र इव सिन्धुभिः आर्यः सर्वसमश्चैव सदैकप्रियदर्शनः स च सर्वगुणोपेतः कौसल्यानन्दवर्धनः समुद्र इव गाम्भीर्ये धैर्येण हिमवानिव विष्णुना सदृशो वीर्ये सोमवत्प्रियदर्शनः कालाग्निसदृशः क्रोधे क्षमया पृथिवी समः धनदेन समस्त्यागे सत्ये धर्म इवापरः. So we said, I think somewhere in the very first or second class, I think we said there is a principle of the nature, use it or lose it. So if we don't use our memory to keep remembering, we might slowly lose it as we grow old. So this is one good exercise for all of us adults here, for all Prodha, to exercise at least, one sloka a week. That's all. That is the progress we are making. We're not like even running 20 slokas or one chapter a week. So it is very, very easy for us. One sloka a week, try to memorize. It's a punyam purushartham. Both, we achieve. So last time, okay, before we start, we like always read Panchangam. So Adya Tithi, Sharvari Nama Samvatsare, Uttarayane, Grishmartau. Again, now we have both Uttaradi, Dakshinadi. So Jeshthamase, according to Amanta Paddhati, Ashadhamase, according to Purnimanta. So for them, yesterday was Purnima. So Jeshthamasa for them was over. Ashadhamasa starts. But for others who follow Amanta, we still are in Jeshthamasa. And so Krishna Paksha started from today. Pratipad Tithau. It is the Pratipad Tithi is there till 13:02. That is 1:02 afternoon. Nakshatram is Mula Nakshatram up to 28:41. So that is 4:41 a.m. tomorrow morning. Purvashadha Nakshatram. After that, Sadhya Yoga. I think it will be done in another 15 minutes up till 7:50 a.m. Followed by Shubha Yoga till 4:22 a.m. tomorrow morning. After that, it is Shukla Paksha. Shukla Yoga. And Karanam, Kaulava Karanam till 13:02, that is 1:02. Taitilaha till 24:09. And then Garaha. I think for most of us might know, but I just thought, since yesterday was Purnima, I wanted to just share that. In how our Chandramana masas are named, Chaitra, Vaishakha, Jeshtha, Ashadha, Shravana. How are those month names picked? And if we are curious, for those of us who would have ever intuitively thought, some of these names sound like one of the nakshatrams, right? So the name of the month goes by whatever is the nakshatram on the Purnima Tithi. On the Purnima Tithi, whatever is the nakshatram that exists in the horizon, that becomes the name of the month. And typically that continues. It may not be there sometimes for the Suryodaya, or sometimes it may not be there for Suryastama. But generally, more or less generally, it will be there within 24 hours of the Suryodaya. Definitely the nakshatra will be there on that Purnima Tithi, and that nakshatram becomes the name of the month. So yesterday was just Jeshtha Nakshatram. Today is Mula. So yesterday was Jyeshtha. So on the Purnima Tithi of yesterday, Jyeshtha Nakshatram was there, and hence the name of this month is Jyeshtha Masa. Right, and likewise next month will be Ashadha. So that means on the Purnima Tithi, it will be either Purva Ashadha or Uttara Ashadha. One of those two nakshatras will fall. Right, and so that will be called Ashadha Nakshatram. Anyway, what do you say? A sidebar. Okay, so read till Rakshita Swasya Dharmasya Swajanasya Charakshita, and then we stop there because Veda Vedanga Tattvajnaha, we said it will take a little longer to study that. So we talked about Rakshita, and we said there are, the way he classifies that is with the Bali Vardha, Bali Go Bali Vardhanyaya, that Dharmasya Rakshita, Swasya Dharmasya Rakshita, Sarva Rakshita, Sarvalokasya, Swajanasya cha Rakshita. With these two explicit mentions of global and local protection of dharma and the living entity or the beings, let us say. So of all of them, he has given explicitly protection in terms of global and local context, we said. So after that, it is now Veda Vedanga Tattvajnaha, which is the 47th quality. So if we remember from Niyatatma onwards, the qualities that are replied by Narada Maharshi, we are enumerating them, we are enlisting them. So far we have studied 46 qualities. For the 16 that Valmiki has asked. So Veda Vedanga Tattvajnaha, this is a very common word we keep hearing. Oh, he's a Veda Vedanga Pandit, Veda Pandit, Vedangas, he knows and all we say, right? So what does that mean? So Atha Asya Ashtadasha Vidyasthana Vijñatvam Aha Vedeti. So Veda iti, from this onwards, it is aha is mentioned, said, of what? Ashtadasha Vidyasthanam Avijñatvam. So identification of the Ashtadasha Vidyasthanas. So there are 18 Vidyasthanas. Last time also I said, and hence we said we postponed this topic to this week. So the Ashtadasha, so this is one important point for all of us to know as Dharma ambassadors, right? Going forward, anytime we want to talk, oh, what was the education system? What were the various branches, disciplines? Let us say, even if at a high level of our Vedic education system, you can classify it into two: para, apara, or laukika. Iha, para, vidya. So there is para vidya, there is laukika vidya. And in Laukika Vidya, of course, we have all the various professional Vedas also, such as every artisan has his own studies, his own education that he learns from his gurus, etc. Then there is Yuddha Shastras and all. But Paravidya itself is here being classified into Ashtadasha Vidyasthanas. So the Para is that, what is it called? Metaphysics, sir. Is it called metaphysics nowadays? That is beyond physics, into quantum physics or whatever you call it, right? Consciousness at that level of study, that is classified into Ashtadasha Vidyasthanas. So what are they? And first of all, Vidanti Anena Dharmadikam iti Vedaha. First definition given of what is Veda. Vidanti. So you know. Anena, through this, what? Dharmadikam, dharma, etc. All those subjects, all those topics that you come to know through this is called Veda. Vidanti anena dharmadikam Vedaha. There is a Vyakarana Sutra there, Karane Ghai, we'll skip that. Sa Chaturvidaha. So we all know Veda is Chaturvidaha. 4 categories are there. Rig Yajus Sama Tharvana Bhedarat. So there are the 4 categories. First of all, at the high level, Rig, Yajus, Sama, Adharvana. 4 Vedas, we all know it. Vedasya Kinchit Karani Vedangani. So to study these Vedas, we should first of all study the Vedangas. It is though the knowledge base is organized top to bottom, but the study has to be from bottom to top. So first Vedangani are taught. Tanicha Shat, and those Vedangani are 6 Shat Vedangani. What are they? Tathoktam Siksha Kalpo Vyakaranam Niruktam Jyotisham Gatihi Chandasam Vichatischeti Shadangani Prachakshate. So there are 6 Vedangas, and normally for anybody studying in Gurukula, that is the order they study in. They first study Siksha, then Kalpaha, then Vyakaranam, then 4th one Niruktam, Jyotishaha, then Chandaha. So 6, what do you call? 6 prerequisite courses. Let's put it that way. So 6 prerequisite courses are first to be studied before somebody jumps into Vedas. And so there is a slight, not slight, good definition given of what are these. Iti. Tatra Siksha Nama Akaradinam Veda Varnanam Sthana Karana Prayatna Swaradi Bodhika. Abba, what is Siksha Vedanga means, or what does it teach us, or what does it provide? What does it constitute? It constitutes Akaradinam Veda Varnanam. So we all know our alphabet, right? In English we know 26 alphabet. In our Matrubhashas, from India, a minimum of 30 to 50, and in some cases with some more Samyukta Aksharas, you have even lot more than that in certain other languages also. And the uniqueness of our alphabet, I think some of us know, or most of us know anyway, is thoroughly thought, analyzed, and organized. Now we say it is not organized by one person because we say they are Maheshwara Sutrani. These alphabet have come in that order because of the Dhamaraka, because of the Dhamaraka playing of Maheshwara, Sadashiva. As he plays the Dhamaraka, those Varnas have come, they say, right? And the Sutrani also have come like that, they say. So the Swaras are organized. Now first we all know in any language the alphabet are into vowels and consonants, right? Now we say vowels and consonants, but for some reason they're not in that order. That all vowels are first mentioned together and then all consonants are mentioned together. Is it so in English? It is not. They are mixed up. For some reason, nobody knows, right? Why they are mixed up, they do not know. But for us, no, they're very clearly A, I, O, Au, Aha. All these constitute our first vowels in Sanskritam. In some of the Dakshinadi and other languages, we have A. For A also we have Dirgha, but in Sanskritam it is Nitya Dirgha, we say. A is Nitya Dirgha, O is also Nitya Dirgha. There is no O. In Sanskritam it is always O, right? And O, Aha. And also if you see, the beauty is how are these organized? Once you open with Ah, when you stop, till that time your mouth is open. So I, E, O, A, I, O, Ah. When you say you have closed your mouth, and finally a gasp. Ah. So well they are organized, right? Then we have our consonants also, they are called Vargi Vyanjanani, Vargiya Vyanjanani. That is categorized or groups, classified consonants. How? Ka Varga first comes. So Ka, Kha, Ga, Gha, Nga. Then Cha Varga. Cha, Cha, Ja, Jha, Nya. Then Ta Varga. Ta, Tha, Da, Dha, Ana. I'm trying to animate. If you have observed how I'm putting my mouth, you know that there is a pattern of the mouth, tongue, and the teeth to pronounce these syllables. I think we are forgetting this knowledge, and that is why first thing taught in Veda studies in Gurukulam is Siksha. Why? Because Akaradi Veda Varnanam Prayatna Purvaka Samucharana Bodhika is Siksha. So we are taught, if we study properly, where is that sound coming from? So we are in a way taught the analogy of anatomy of our body. We are told where are glands. Aku, ha, visarjaniya, they say in the first sutra. A, ku means kavarga, ka, kha, ga, gha, no, and ha. These alphabets are again organized into saying visarjaniya. They come as aspirations. Ah, ah, ka, they all come from kantha. A, kha, kha, ga, gha, nga. All of them come from kantha. Cha, cha, these are danta talavya, we say. You need the support of teeth and talavya. The jihva is touching the teeth and the starting of the palate. So if you try to say by putting your tongue to the top and say ta, it will become ta. If you put your tongue to the top of the palate, ta, no, you can't. Right? So we are taught body place, glands, and use these organs to pronounce those alphabet. So much of thought, analysis, and passion went into organizing alphabet itself. Just imagine this. To organize an alphabet, Rishis have thought so much and have codified how to pronounce each alphabet. They have codified it. We'll not get so much into so much detail of rest all sutras. I just gave you one idea of how they have put even sutras of which alphabet to pronounce where. So, however, now there is something called Veda Varna. So just to explain why that emphasis of Veda Varna, even though Varna means alphabet, but Veda Varna, because today we have lost some of them. Even in our own colloquial languages, we are losing a lot more alphabet and a lot more pronunciations. Allah, several people don't pronounce Allah. For them, everything la, la, both are same. Ana and na, everything becomes na only. Because all lazy tongue, lazy mouth. But so while we are in this losing itself, there is another big dimension in Veda Varnas. So for example, what do we know of Varnas in Indian Varnas? There is Hrasva, there is Dirgha. There is A, I, U, U, right? R, 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 right? We have this Hrasva, short vowel, Dirgha, long vowel. This we know, even American phonetics also, when you are taught in school and kindergarten, you are said, hey, this is a long vowel, short vowel, they teach you that also, right? Good. So they are also expanding the English alphabet there. However, in Veda, there is a third time unit that is called Pluta. So there are 3 time units for every alphabet, for every vowel. For each or swara, there is Hrasva, Dirgha, and there is Pluta. So if you see Veda texts, there will be a 3 written on the top for certain alphabet. So which means I, O. So there is a longer, much longer, 3 times, 3 time units. Just as we said, right? In numbers also, numbers as in singular, plural. Rest of the world, as we know, there is only singular and plural. But in Veda, there is singular, dual, and then plural. 3 and above is plural. So also for time unit of pronouncing a vowel, they realized that we may need 3 units to give certain more aspects of pronunciation. So there is Hrasva, Dirgha, Pluta. Then they have given a musical dimension also to these vowels. What is that? Now, if I say a, at this pitch. Sumir, can you say So her was is her pitch. If for all of us who know music, Sangeetam, right? Her is I said let's say Pragya, you say hers is further bass. Sumir says mine is So there are multiple swaras also, right? Just like in music, everybody has a reference of a different sthai. So they realize, oh my God, for some reason, if Sumir says, what if Prajna says, oh, will it happen to be a different alphabet? Will it happen to be a different Let us standardize that also, they said. Let us standardize the frequencies also. The swara or the shruti. The shruti or the frequency of uttering a vowel in addition to the time unit along x-axis, if you take hrasva, dirgha, pluta. Along they gave another dimension of y-axis saying what should be the frequency, what is the standard frequency, what can be a higher frequency, what can be a lower frequency. So those three are called udatta, swarita is the standard frequency, which is wherever we say omkaram typically, that is the swarita. So this is at this swarita level. We are giving three numbers for each alphabet. Now, a higher frequency is called udatta. A lower frequency is called anudatta. So swarita, udatta, anudatta. Three dimensions they have given to the frequency level at the swara level, shruti level. So now how many combinations of can be there? Prajna or Sumir?
3.
That's all. What are they? How many ways can you say akara, not akara. You're right. I think can be said only in 3 ways. You're right. But akara, how many ways can we say?
Akara, how many ways we can say?
So we have 3 time units, 3 frequency units.
So 6, yeah.
9.
9 combinations.
3 times 3 is 9, right? So you can say So in 3 frequency units, in 3 time units, 9 combinations of akara, and so also for ikara, so also for ukara, and so on. So giving all these definitions, giving us those exercises, making sure that we are able to pronounce. If I show you one flashcard, that you pronounce it at the correct frequency in the correct time unit. All these exercises, not necessarily through flashcards. I'm just saying because you guys know flashcards, So, but for us, everything is memory. Listen and repeat. Listen and repeat. No textbook also. That text is called Siksha. One Vedanga. The first prerequisite to study Veda is first of all to be able to pronounce alphabet correctly, properly. Why? Only because this is taught as the first text that we have without any printed textbooks till about few hundred years ago. We could bring Vedas without one variation, not even an iota of a deviation or a variation for millennia of years. Only because so well organized study system, education system is the Veda system. Siksha, if one studies properly, then his entire Vedocharana will be perfect. And then how do they test? There is another way of testing. There is Dashapathaha, we say. So how do you make sure that this fellow will not jumble up or this fellow will not corrupt the text? For all other texts, everybody knows, including Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavata, and all other texts, right? There are what is called as Pata Bhedaha. There are versions, various different versions that for some various reasons, for some reason or for various reasons in different regions, there are different versions of those texts. Sometimes there is Kshipta Slokaha also, they say. In our research analysts, they say. Some people have, what do you call, inserted their own versions of certain lines or certain half lines or sometimes certain slokas also in our texts. Ramayana also, there are some researches done by certain scholars to say these are Kshipta Shlokaha. These probably are not from the original Ramayana because they don't sound, when you read the whole text, you'll suddenly find this is sort of out of context or out of style of Valmiki. So certain research scholars have even identified that. So while that is agreed by the same Pandits, how come Veda texts, which itself runs into millions of slokas and all, if you bring all the shakas and the entire knowledge base of all the texts, all the Ashtadasha Vidyasthanas that we are going to talk about, how did we bring them uncorrupted? It is because of this first prerequisite course that is taught, which is called Siksha. Okay, so Siksha nama akaradinam vedavarnanam sthana karana prayatna swaradi bodhika. So where is this sthana? How to pronounce this akara? Sthana as in our body glands, right? You have to pronounce it from throat, pronounce it from stomach, pronounce it from nasal, pronounce it with tongue touching the teeth, tongue touching the top of the palate, with the help of lips. For example, let us give again tease Sumir or Prajna. Pronounce ba, ba. Huh? Say ba without touching your lips.
Which ba?
Just anyone. Ba, bha, pa, pa, any one of them. Just say it without touching your lips.
Oh, I can't.
Try it.
Wow.
See, you cannot. The entire power ga, pa, pha, ba, bha, ma. All of them will require, they are called oshtau. So you need lips to pronounce them. So that's how they have organized. And so this text is called Siksha. So akaradinam vedavarnanam sthana karana prayatna swaradi bodhika. How to pronounce it? Prayatnam. What effort do you have to put? How do you have to say it? All those rules, all those formulae are mentioned in this first text called Siksha. Then Yaga Kriya Kramopadeshaha Kalpaha. So once you have learned this, then you are taught certain mantras of how to, the mantras that are required to perform various yajnas. Yaga means yajna, yaga, homa, havana, sava. All of this, let us say, put together. To do those kriya, yaga kriya, yaga karma, whatever, how to do them, what are the procedures or processes, SOP, standard SOP, right? Standard operating procedure. So the SOP of yagas is called kalpaha. So what does it say? Yaga kriya kramopadeshaha kalpaha. So kalpa, that is the second text taught. The third one is sadhu shabda. Now so far what are you taught? You are taught only how to pronounce alphabet properly. Now memorize certain mantras which are required and know the procedures, the processes, what to do first, what not to do first, how to arrange things there in that mantapa, what should be to the east, what should be to the west, what should be to the whatever south, etc. How many layers of bricks to keep there, what should be the dimensions of the bricks, what should be the shapes. In fact, that is where Professor Ram Subramanian said the pi algorithm, the pi constant, we knew it during Veda. In Vedas itself, we know the pi constant. And he says, how can we claim that? Yeah, of course, we have a shloka which codifies pi to the precision of 36 decimals. But how or why? Why do you think we needed pi? So he says that was because in every home we need Tretagnis, we say, right? There are 3 Agni, and you have to have 3 Agnis. And these 3 have to be put in certain kundas which have different shapes. There is one which is a semicircular shape. There is one which requires a square. There is one which is a hexagonal shape. But the constraint put is all of them should utilize the same area. Each one of them should be of the same area. Now, how do you fit? How do I have one area with same circle? Circle. That means the diameter should be, let us say, of fixed area length. If I take that as the diameter and I arrive at the area of the circle, then what is it? How will I put a square in it? How will I fit a square in it? And then how will I fit a hexagon in it? So for those 3 Agni's sake, they have come up with this pi. Okay. Again, just to know that, that so much of mathematics as needed we have invented, not for the sake of inventing one by one formula with not much of applications. For every application, we have invented a formula, is what I was trying to say. So yaga kriya kramopadesha kalpaha. Then, so now we understood so far, we are new alphabet, we have memorized certain mantras, and then we have memorized the procedures, or we have learned the procedures of both setting up things and the sequence of activities to do as part of that yaga. Now this child so far has been, the student has been doing this is sort of monotonous routine, right? Then slowly we introduce analytical aspects now. So what do we do next? Sadhu Shabda Vyakhyanam Vyakaranam. Then the third text that is taught is Vyakaranam. Now we are taught Vyakaranam, which is, again, grammar in English is a very loose or very remote equivalent translation. Vyakaranam is not just grammar, because Vyakaranam is here, what is it saying? Sadhu Shabda Vyakyanam. Proper words to know. If you say a word out of your mouth, first thing we talk is alphabet, first thing we utter is alphabet, one syllable of a sound. Then the next unit is a word, right? Certain syllables put together is one word. Is that word proper? Is that word accurate? Is that word correct? So for example, if I say, this is the example I always give in Sanskrit classes also, right? Rama killed Ravana. A word called Rama, a word called killed, a word called Ravana. If I analyze these 3 words, Rama was ending in something called A. Killed ended in ED. Ravana ended as A. The name of Ravana, that person is Ravana. The name of this person is Rama. There is a verb called kill, but we put ed, we suffixed it with ed to give it a past tense meaning or past tense form to it. But between Rama and Ravana, there is no difference. We did not add any suffixes to them to say what is the form that it has changed. The verb called kill is the verb, but we transformed it by giving it a suffix called ed. So if anyone reads KLLED, immediately we know, oh, it is a past tense of it. But if I read Rama, if I read Ravana, do I know, is it the name of Rama, of a person called Rama, or he is the subject, or he is the object, or he is the instrument? How do we know? If I say Rama killed Ravana, who is the subject here? Who is the actor?
Rama.
Rama is the actor. And who is the object? Who is the target of the
Ravana.
killed word? Ravana, right? We all know it. Ravana is the target there. But for some reason, let's say this paper, this text got lost and it got torn after several next, kalpa, somebody received these, they found these texts, but they were all pieces. They found 3 pieces. One piece of text called Rama, one piece of text called killed, one piece of text called Ravana. And they are trying to arrange them to see, oh, what does this sentence mean? And somehow they jumbled them and it came to be Ravana killed Rama. Yes, you can understand the meaning. Oh, probably Ravana means he is the actor. Killed is the past tense verb. Rama is the object. Oh, probably Ravana killed Rama. Right? If they just happen to get jumbled, the whole meaning is lost. Why? Because the word itself is not transformed. Just as kill word is transformed to killed, to say that it is atomically or inherently, it is telling its number, it's telling its tense, it's telling its gender, etc. Right? But Rama and Ravana didn't get transformed. Rama could mean the name of the person. Rama could be the target in this action of killed. Rama could be the actor of the killed action. We do not know, right? So now these are not perfect words. Shuddha, they're not, what is it called? Sadhu Shabda. They're not Sadhu Shabda. They're not proper because they're misleading. They can be misled if for whatever reason they are jumbled, or if for whatever reason somebody reads it in a different order, right? Whereas in Sanskritam, never ever can there be an ambiguity like that. Why? Because every word is transformed to tell what it means, which is number, singular, plural, or dual, or gender, pullinga, strilinga, napunsakalinga, or the role that it is playing in that activity, which is it actor? Is it the target? Is it the instrument? Is it the recipient? Is it the giver of that action? Right? All these, based on that role, that word gets transformed. And that is what we call as vibhakti. Right? We all would have studied in some time or the other in school, college, somewhere. Ramaha, Ramam, Ramena, Ramaya, Ramat, Rami, Rama. Those are 7 in one number, and we have 7 threes, 21 such forms. Just one word called Ram can get transformed into. So now every form is unique, and so absolutely no ambiguity. Anybody put them in any order. If it says Ramaya, whether you say it in the beginning or in the end or middle, anywhere, Ramaya always means he is the target of some, he is the recipient of a giving action. Either giving knowledge, giving greetings, giving food, giving anything, give anything. If you hear Ramaya, that means he is the recipient, we know. Or if it is, for example, Ramat, we know it is, he is the source. Ramat parataram nasti, there is nothing beyond Rama. Right? So that for an action of comparison, for an action of giving, he is the source. So that is that sadhu shabda. I'm sorry, I think I'm seeing probably we are losing interest here. Okay, so sadhu shabda vyakhyanam vyakaranam, that is the third text we study. And then varnagamo, varna lopo, varna viparyayaha ityadina nishchayenoktam niruktam. Then there is a next text which is called nirukta. Nirukta is another, loosely we can say it is sort of, what do you say, a glossary, or not a glossary, what is it called? See, if you see textbooks, at the end we will have a certain something like glossary. Yeah, glossary, but glossary is a loose definition. Here niruktam is saying in what context, if this word is used, what does it mean, so that when you study Veda, you don't make unnecessary misinterpretations. The definitions of and the contexts in which those words are used to mean what is mentioned in the Niruktam text. So if we know Niruktam well, if you study Niruktam well, then there is no misinterpretation that can be done. And hence only all the Vedacharyas, do you ever hear any various interpretations of Veda? For Bhagavatam, there will be different interpretations. If an ISKCON Acharya teaches, he teaches it in one way. But if a Shankaracharya Advaiti Vedanta Acharya teaches, he interprets in a different way. And if a Vishishtadvaita teaches, he interprets in a different way, etc., right? But for Veda, all of those Acharyas interpret the same way, absolutely the same way, right? Why? Because it is Niruktam based. So they've done so much of security measures, right? Security measures essentially to make sure that Veda in word and spirit is not ever corrupted for time immemorial. We have to just appreciate those rishis who have, put all this study system. So the fourth text is the Niruktam. So the first one is Siksha, Kalpaha, Vyakaranam, Niruktam. And then, so we said Yaga Kriyas, the second text was Kalpaha, which is to do with the standard operating procedures, SOP of Yagas, right? Yaga Kriya Kramopadeshaha Kalpaha, we said. So, but there we talked about how to set up things and what is the order to do things. Now, when to do is another question, right? What and how is okay, but when is the next question. So, Karmanusthana Kaladi Pratipadakam Shastram Jyotisham. So, the fifth text, Jyotisha, is about when to do the Kala, when to do these karmas. Various karmas are prescribed in Vedas, right? Several karmas are prescribed there, defined and prescribed. And when to do them, what is the time, what is the season, what is the day, what is the month, etc. Right? So all those to unambiguously point to a time, that time definition subject is called Jyotisha. So which is, and hence for us Jyotisha is coming from the universe. We start at, hey, we look at the universe and then see what are various objects in this universe. There are planets. Again, planet is a word in English is different from graha in Jyotish Shastram, right? That apart, Sumir's father is a very good, he's Jyotish Shastra. He knows Jyotisham. So that is Jyotisham, the fifth text, which is Karma Anusthana, to implement the karma. Kala Adi Pratipadakam, it proposes the time, when it prescribes the time of when to do which karma. That Shastram is Jyotisham. And finally, the sixth one is Chandasam Padyanam Shastram Chando Vichitihi. So the sixth text is Chandaha. Why? They realized, I think sometime back I also mentioned this probably, but we'll again record. Let us say if there is a text of, which is a standard textbook. I'm trying to recollect. Sumit, tell one of your textbook names. Any physics, biology, whatever, math, English.
The name of the textbook or just the like subject?
No, the name, a specific textbook, which is, so you have to know the author and the name of the book.
SAT subject test biology, and author is Deborah T. Goldberg.
Okay. So Deborah D. Goldberg. Okay. How many pages is that text?
It's 426 pages.
426 pages. Okay. So now, today, where is the text memorized? The text is memorized on paper Very soon it might be memorized in hard drives or, SD-ROMs, etc., all those flash memories in the data centers. That is where it is memorized, as in stored, right? Now, from hard disk, originally let's say even in our IT, all because most of us are IT people, right? Originally it was hard disk. Then they said, hey, hard disk is going to fail. How to make sure that the data is not lost? So they came up with, whatever, flash memory. And then they come up with whatever else, right? So why do we do this? Because we want to make sure that this data is preserved. Whatever is important, that is what people want to preserve. For us, other data is important today. And so we are thinking how to preserve this. Today, we are only in the mode of, we think it needs to be preserved outside. And so we are trying to think and evolve and improvise the storage devices. But our people probably, they also would have thought about it. I do not know, right? Because I've never lived it. But as told to us, we never had such devices or we realized these devices are going to change. These devices are going to die. This technology will die. What next? How long will you keep inventing new devices or new technologies? What after that? And any device can be stolen, right? Nachoraharyam, nacho bhratrubhadyam. There is one Subhashitam, right? Vidyadhanam sarvadhana pradhanam, we say. Everything, if there is a hard disk, it can be stolen. A USB drive can be stolen. Even if it is a small, this bit of a whatever device, even if you invent, it can be lost if not stolen. It might slip from my pocket or somewhere. It's so small that I may not be able to even preserve it properly. So how to make sure that this is not lost or stolen? They have put this IT security people. We had some rishis who were IT security experts. So then they realized the only way, there cannot be any better memory storage device than our memory, human memory. All we have to do is make sure that this passes on from one to the next. Just as life passes on, through that life, let us also pass on this memory and knowledge. So they have come up with this exercises and techniques. So two techniques. First one is, they said, now if this 426 pages have to be memorized, your 426 pages, they are prose text, right? They're prose text. Prose text, can anyone memorize it easily? People struggle to memorize Lincoln's, Abraham Lincoln's first speech in the, what is it called, first federal meeting, whatever, right? People try to memorize and because it is tough, because it is slightly prose. But some of the poetic speeches, they become easy to memorize because there is some rhyming in it, there is some passion in it, right? It becomes sort of easy to memorize, isn't it? A long prose sentences versus structured, ordered, somewhat predictable length of each sentence kind of text. Of these two, which would be easier to memorize? Obviously, we all know, right? Or even if we don't know, we think we will all know it, that if it is ordered text, it is easier to remember, right? So they have come up with chanda. Chanda is metering. I mean, again, a loose word. Chanda is not metering, but one aspect of chanda is metering. So what they say, every sentence has to be these many letters, these many alphabet or syllables. Some with 8 syllables in a line, some with 16 syllables, some with 21 syllables, some with 11, 9, various. And what should be the order, sequence of them? Short, long, short, 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 long, long, short, short, long, short. This should be the format of a sentence. So then anybody can, now most of us, even if you say, right, most of us might remember the tune of a song, any Bollywood song or movie song or a Carnatic Sangeeta song also. Most of us might remember the tune. We might forget some text, but we definitely remember the tune, right? And once we remember the tune, then we can easily put in text also. Even if we don't remember the original text, you can put the text. Suhani Rat. Yeah, even if I don't know Rat, then I would say Baat. Right? Because that tune of long, short, I know some other word which is long and short, I can put in. So there's an obvious system here of tune and corresponding words will be easier to memorize. That study, that organized system, a systematic study of various, what can be various patterns of these lines and how to, how to start composing text in that pattern to convey the same feelings naturally, right? That text, that system of study is called Chandaha. But now, as I said, okay, somebody taught this. Now, can I be sure that it will be passed on properly? I said, Suhani Raat Dhal Gayi. For example, I taught this. Hey, make sure you learn this properly. Suhani Baat Dhal Gayi. Now I corrupted, right? How to know it? How do I test him? So then they came up with 10 exercises called Dashapatha. There is Shabda Patha, there is Jata Patha, there is Ratha Patha, there is Jata Patha, and so on. And finally, the last text of is called Ghana Patha. So 10 part. And so somebody who is able to say the same text, whether one line or the entire 426 lines of text, in these 10 forms, 10 patterns. So for example, I'll just tell you. Let's say if the text was, let's take our standard, our own Vinayaka Namastubhyam Satatam Modaka Priya. Right? These 4 lines, forward. Vinayaka Namastubhyam Satatam Modaka Priya Nirvighnam Kuru me Deva Sarva Karyeshu Sarvada. So there are 10 words in the shloka. Right? How do I make sure that you know this shloka correctly? What is the author certifying procedure? How do I certify that you have learned this shloka correctly? So they have put this procedure. If you are able to say it in these 10 patterns, the same shloka, then you know it correctly. And what are they? First of all, you should be able to split it, because every word you should know, as we said, every word should be transformed correctly. But when you put 2 words together, sometimes I'm gonna go, hey, tell me what does gonna mean? If you can say going to, then I accept that, okay, you know the word correctly. But if you know gonna means gonna, then right? So to know the original words is important. That is called Shabda Patha. So if I ask you to tell me the words in the shloka, then you should be able to say Vinayaka Namaha Tubhyam Satatam Modaka Priya Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. We split Namastubhyam into 2 words, so 11 words have come. Then the second text is, okay, all right, you know the words. Now tell me in the Jata Patha, they say. So Jata Patha is Jata. How do you put the Jata? Jata is our woman, Indian woman. How do they do? It's alternate, right? So you should be able to say Vinayaka Namaha Namah Vinayaka Namastubhyam Tubhyam Namaha Tubhyam Namastubhyam Tubhyam Satatam Satatam Tubhyam Satatam Modaka Priya Satatam. So 1 2 2 1 2 3 3 2 3 4 4 3 4 5 5 4. In that order, if you say, that is the second, called Jatapatha. Then there is, and so on, go Rathapatha. Then finally comes Ghanapatha. Ghanapatha is cube. How does it go? 1 2 2 1 1 2 3 3 2 1 1 2 3. That's one pattern. One. And then for every such words you have to say. So for example, Vinayaka Namah Vinayaka Namastubhyam Tubhyam Namah Vinayaka Namastubhyam Namah Tubhyam Namah Namastubhyam Satatam Namah Tubhyam Namah Satatam, and so on. So if somebody is able to say all in all these 10 formats the same text, then we can be guaranteed that This will not be forgotten. This will not be corrupted. Two aspects of IT security measures. One, it should not be lost. Two, it should not be corrupted. It might not be lost, but it will be corrupted data. What do we do with the data? You cannot make any sense out of it. So it should not be corrupted. It should not be lost. So for that sake, they have invented Chandaha and the Shabda Pathaha, etc. Right? The Pathaha, the Shapathaha. So that is Chandaha. So these are, so now how many so far we have studied? 4 Vedaha, Shadangani, Shiksha, Kalpaha, Vyakarana, Niruktam, Jyotisham, Chandaha. 6 plus 4, 10. After that, where are we? 827. Oh boy. Chandasampadyanam. Vedascha, Vedangani cha, Veda Vedangani. So when we say Veda Vedanga Tattvajnaha, what do we mean? Vedaha Vedangani cha, Veda Vedangani, Tesham Tattvam Tattvarthaha, Tam Janati Tattvoktaha. So somebody who understands, who knows Vedas and Vedangas and its Tattva Arthaha, not just the word, but knowing the spirit of those texts also is Veda Vedanga Tattvajnaha. But that covers only 10. When we go to the next one, Veda Vedanga Tattvajnaha, Dhanurvedecha Nishtitaha. When we go to Dhanurveda, then we cover the remaining 8 more Vidyasthana. Kshamyatam, if it was it boring, was it unwanted text? But I thought we should know it in this detail. Then only we can proudly say what is our education system. How first thing we should know is how did we bring this Veda text uncorrupted? And it is not 100 lines, it is not 426 lines. It is millions of lines of texts. How did we bring it in millions of years like that? Till then, printing has come very recently. We know whenever printing was there. Before that, no. It was only oral tradition. How? This is how they have invented those two, those branches of or prerequisite courses, which is Vedangani, so that then they can study Veda and remember it and practice it properly. Dhanurvedecha nishtitaha. So I've tried to put that table here. So Veda, 4 of them, Rig, Yajus, Sama, Adharvana. Vedangaha, Siksha, Kalpaha, Vyakaranam, Niruktam, Jyotisham, Chandaha. Then there is Upangani, which is Dharmashastram, Puranam, Nyayaha, Mimamsa. That makes it 14. And then we have Upavedaha, Dhanurveda, Ayurveda, Ayurveda, which is the other 2. There are 2 more. I'm trying to recollect. So put together all these 18 bodies form our Ashtadasha Vidyasthanani, we say. Any questions, comments so far? It's 8:30. Not discussions, but any specific questions or comments on this? So that after that we will say Mangal Shloka and stop recording, then we can discuss. Andarji?
Bhogaji, so, can you just explain the Niruktam a little bit? I forgot to take down. I didn't get that properly.
So Niruktam is talking about, it says Varna Lopaha, Varna Viparyayaha, Varna Yojanam. So when there is a syllable that is missing, when there is an additional syllable, even to that extent, from there onwards, when there is no syllable, what does this word mean? When there is an additional syllable, what does Varna Lopaha, what could it mean? Varna Viparyayaha, alternative Varna comes in that place. What could it mean? From there to a glossary of, in the context of a karma, this word means this. But in the context of tattva, this word means this. All that niruktam, anuktaha. So whatever is probably implicitly mentioned in Veda is explicitly listed. That text is called Niruktam.
Okay.
Okay. Otherwise, anyone else has questions?
Yeah, Bhogaji, this
Ah,
is Shriyam. I have a couple of questions.
yeah.
I think first one is not questions, comment. I just looked up the other two Upavedas. They are Arthashastra and Sthapatya Veda.
Artha and Sthapatya Veda. Correct. Correct.
And the second question that I had was from somewhere I read, basically these Westerners who actually translated Vedas, they kind of misinterpreted certain words.
Mhm.
And that's how we see some twisted, according to us, twisted meaning of this. Like go means Prithvi as well as cow, and so on. So they took a different meaning and interpreted the fight between darkness and whatever Indra fought the clouds or whatever, dark people and dark skin and all those things. So if it is so much protected, then how could they misinterpret so easily? If we have Nirukta and everything.
Correct. See, if somebody studies it in this order from a Gurukula, there can never be any misinterpretation. None of them have studied it that way. Unfortunately, none of them have studied it that way. And hence, I've been saying always in any debate or anywhere that we should be able to, women and Hindus, we as Hindus as a society, through our Sanghatan, we should be able to deny and reject any authority of anybody not studied through the Veda Gurukula Paddhati. If he has not studied as per this Paddhati, we absolutely reject, ridicule their interpretations. Who is the authority to comment? Somebody who has studied through Vedic Paddhati, which is our Acharyas, our Shankaracharyas, our Matadhipatis, our any Acharya, doesn't matter. Any Sampradaya Acharya, doesn't matter. But if you have studied it through our education system and graduated, yes, you are eligible to comment. You are eligible to give your interpretations on it. Otherwise, you are a sorry. So I'll not state a word, but we should just reject and ridicule them.
Bhogaji.
Unfortunately, today it seems in the academics, if you don't have a PhD, you are not an authority. Hello, a Shankaracharya is an authority, not a PhD guy. A PhD guy who cannot even talk one sentence in Sanskritam, comments on Veda. What is his authority?
Bhogaji, this is Ajay. Very interesting question from Srirangji, and this question comes all the time, right? So, in a nutshell, how do we undo what has been done with our Vedas, with distorting the right information across many years, across many ways? So, in a nutshell, what I'm thinking is that how do we make a one source as a Google of the right Vedas? Because think about it right now, for anything, everything, the first thing that everybody do, including myself, is to go on Google and search, right?
Yeah.
So one source of the truth or one source of the information where we can provide this information and undo some of the things that has been done that is creating a lot of confusion and sending the wrong message or sent a wrong message.
Right.
So I know there are a lot of people, there are a lot of books, there are a lot of audios and this and that. So somewhere I think, you said it very well, but, we need to think through as to see how we can bring all this in one place and make that one place to go and search and believe in that. Because Google, whatever it says, that everybody believes, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Even current news, what's happening, CNN, the Washington Post or New York Times or the BBC, read it, but before they go, first Google. So it's a different question, but I think it's something that we all need to think about it and see how we can bring that platform and make sure that people have a consistent message, a consistent information, so that continued distortion of the information doesn't happen at least.
Yes, you're right. So there are multiple ways to do that. One, there is positive and negative actions, right? Constructive and destructive actions also we have to take. The negative protest kind of activities constantly protest against such texts. Go ahead and say that, hey, this is incorrect text and all. On the other hand, we should also build our own text bases. More of our people who can go through this lineage of study and or have studied from such teachers. Okay, so for example, if you ask me, did I go through Gurukulam? I have not gone through. Do I have authority to talk on this? At least I've learned whatever from such gurus who run such Gurukulams. Right? So what I'm trying to say is either you've studied it in that lineage, in that school directly, or from teachers who have passed out from such schools. Such people should build a lot more tech. For example, there is K. Aravind Rao, who was our president of Sanskrit Bharati, Telangana Pranta, or Andhra Pradesh before this period. He was DGP, head of the state police of the erstwhile AP state. But he was also interested in Sanskritam. Towards his retirement, after retirement, he did his PhD, then did another PhD, 2 PhDs in Sanskritam and Veda Shastras, and has published a lot of textbooks. So all we need today is, they say, right, today the academics runs by, what is that called as a pattern? Strangling, or I don't know that pattern. You have to constantly refer each other. Every paper should have reference quoting the other paper. That paper has references quoting to some other paper. You know it, Ajayji. You are a PhD and patent person. Quotation, references is important, right? And so if we can build such lot of documentation, which is referring, quoting our texts, somebody else's texts, newer texts, right? If we build that base, I think then probably, what we say, right? How to shorten a line by drawing another bigger line. No other easy way. You have to draw another big documentation base.
That's correct, Bhogaji. Maybe at some other time we need to take, but I think at least we started to educate ourselves.
Yeah.
That's the first step. Clearing our own confusion, and then once we have that clarity, it becomes easier for us to convince, or at least have conversation. Not convince. Convincing is wrong word to me, but at least we can try to educate and have conversation with other people that may be a little ignorant.
Correct.
Bhogaji, when you explain the shlokas, right? Many times you change the order in the way the words come. So now, as you explained today, went through the details about not grammar but all the aspects. Now it is a little clearer how you could do that and why it was possible to make the same meaning that the poet or whoever composed the Subhashitam meant.
Yeah.
Bhogaji, one more question. With Nirukta always comes Nighantu. What is that? And
so Nighantu is a much later textbook. Nighantu is not
Okay.
Vedic textbooks. Nighantu is more word-to-word definition. Right? Niruktam is talking about in the context of Veda, because of certain Vyakaranam-based variations of certain words. What would they mean in that context? It is not exactly word-to-word meaning like in a Nighantu.
Okay.
Moreover, Nighantu is a Laukika textbook, meaning for all other kavyas and other things that are written later, the dictionaries that are built is a Nighantu.
I see.
But Niruktam is a Vedic glossary.
Okay, got it.
Okay, what we do is 8:41. We'll end with Shanti Mantra and then continue the discussion like always. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः so we have formally